The sun comes up in the morning and it goes down in the evening, in the opposite side of the heavens. And 12 hours later, it comes back up in the morning in the same place. Now, if you weren't steeped in some kind of ignoramus, mesmerism, and some sort of mind control, to be thinking that somehow that means that the earth is flat, you would see that it's impossible for the earth to be flat. Because if you're on a flat plane and the sun's going from east to west, and it's going from east to west every time you see it, it never goes back west again. It goes east to west in a straight line and goes down over the horizon and comes back up in the east again. It has to be going around a round globe. And I know some of you think, no, it's just that the earth is flat and it's a long, long ways and it goes out of sight and then it goes back around, on the flat top and comes back around like a circle. Not around the other side, but just around the flat top, like a cork. And so you're just not seeing that. It goes beyond. Well, no, stop. You gotta realize that you're deceiving yourself. Because if we know that the sun is shining in China, on the opposite, we call it the opposite side of the earth, but, alright, so let's say we're in America, and the sun's up, and it's shining. Okay, 12 hours later, we're sleeping and it's dark. You can call somebody on the phone in China and they'll say, yeah, there's a sun over here now. Okay, so we know that it's not that far from here to China. You can get on a boat or a plane and get there, pretty quickly. We know that when you're in China, you can get on a boat or a plane and go east. You don't have to come west and come back to the west. You can get on a boat or a plane and go east from China, and you still going directly east, come back around to America again.
Here's our flat Earth with our magnetic center. This is the shoreline that we call Antarctica that surrounds our world. And here's my boat. I put my boat down and immediately the compass points north. If I want to circumnavigate, I want to head west or east, but we're going to go west right now. So I'm heading west, and as you see, west keeps turning. So I have to keep going, and this is how, when you go west, you end up going all the way back to where you started from. Same thing for east. I go east. I keep having to turn because my compass keeps making me turn to go east.
All right. So now, in your mind, you would normally and logically understand that it's a circle. You go around the earth. So the fact that people talked about going and sailing around the earth for thousands of years, yes, in stories, biblical stories and ancient stories that were written before Christ, they talked about sailing around the world. And the sun setting. In fact, the devil's name is Set, because he's setting, he's the light setting. Which means to go down. The fact that Jesus' other name is Horus, or that's the word we have today, horizon, which because there is a horizon. That the sun comes up in the east and down. And all of this, look, I mean, I don't know how much or how long we need to spend on telling you these kinds of things. They used to be obvious. That people weren't, people talk about airplanes. That, well, why do airplanes, when you put them on autopilot, if the Earth has curvature, why don't they just sail right on off the Earth and into space? Well, we've got gravity, all right?
What is gravity?
I have no idea. Okay, next question.
Wow.
No, here's the difference. We can describe gravity. Okay. We can say what it does to other things. We can measure it, predict with it. But when you start asking, what it is, I don't know.
But what's happening is the plane is designed to keep that airplane at a certain altitude. So that means a certain distance between the plane and the ground. So, yeah, that's why they don't nosedive into the earth or fly off into space, because they're keeping a certain altitude. Now, they have little meters in the airplane, an altimeter that keeps the altitude, and the plane will adjust the rudders and so forth to keep that altitude. It's not some kind of rocket scientist. Anybody could know this, and yet people keep perpetuating this ignorance and telling people, well, what about airplanes? And then so many people unsuspecting and not understanding how airplanes fly without, with an altimeter or how this works, are deceived by your lies, and you're perpetuating these lies. So, in the ancient times when they saw the sun go down and come up on the opposite side, they just knew that the earth was round. How is it that people just don't know that anymore? Well, most people do. Like I said, only about 2 or 3%, maybe 4 or 5% of the people even believe in this stuff. But they're like zealots running around spreading these weird lies, and little children don't get any education anymore. So they're starting to believe your crap. But listen how you're deceiving people. When the sun goes down, you say, oh, well, it just keeps going over this flat plane. And it's going so far in the distance that we can't see the sun anymore.
But nobody wants to know him. You can see that he's just a fool. And he never gives an answer. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down. And the eyes in his head see the world spinning around.
That's a lie, and you can see and observe with your eyes that that's a lie. Because the sun is a great big ball you can see very clearly. But all of a sudden, it goes down and gets close to the horizon. And you can see it go over the horizon, and you can't see it no more, and it gets dark.
Okay, here I am. This is my flat earth counter. It continues on into the far distance. I have my camera filming across the surface, slightly above it. This line here is the path of the sun, and I have this bottle here to show you that it's just over 3 fingers above it. As we go down, we have our tropical forest, we have our blue glass cutting board, and some more mountains, if you will, as the sun continues to the end. 3 fingers, we have a level line. I'm going to flip the camera around, stick it here. I'm going to dim the lights and travel the sun. Let me move my bottles out of the way. Here we go, my sun. See? And here we go. We follow the sun's path, staying level over our flat stationary counter plane. We cruise over the lower mountains. Of course, this is not to scale, and I could do this much higher if my kitchen was just twice as long. And we will get the same effect. I come to the end, to the firmament, and we stop. There's the camera, still at level, slightly above level, standing on the flat earth. So here we go. I'm going along the sun's path, keeping it level to the flat earth. Heading past the mountains. Now, if this was truly the flat earth, I'd have much more distance to go, and I could even have this much higher to get the same effect. We're just finishing, hitting the firmament, basically. And let's take a look. Turn the lights back on, and I'm going to remove all of the bumps on the earth. To show that I am above the counter, flat earth, I'm going to just slide this along a perfectly smooth flat earth. And I'm guessing that it doesn't set. Because the earth has bumps. To show that I am above the counter, the flat earth, I'm going to just slide this along a perfectly smooth flat earth. And I'm guessing that it doesn't set. Because the earth has bumps.
The only reason it gets dark is because the sun's rays are being blocked. It is a scientific fact that if you put something in between a light source and yourself, you'll be standing in the dark. That's just a fact. So if the sun was let's say it's 10,000 miles away when it's going over the horizon. And you're saying, well, it's just at that point. Right at that point, it's just going out of the sight of vision. Why? Why at that point does it go from the size of an orange to absolutely nothing? There's no explanation for that. There's no explanation for that. It's not just going further and further and further and further and further and further away. If it were, you would see what would look like a very tiny star. In the distance, but you don't. You see nothing. It goes down over the horizon, and the earth then becomes a block or a shield between you and the sun's rays, and it's dark. And I'll be darned, but look behind you, in 12 hours it's going to come up on the other horizon. Now, anybody with any brains and any noggin would normally look at that and they would just assume the earth is round, since everybody says it's been round for thousands of years. And your very eyes will tell you this. Now, I want to share another point with you. This is another proof that the earth is round. If you stand on the equator, okay, that just means somewhere in the area around the Bahamas or something, right? Okay, you're down there in the equatorial region where it's always nice and sunny and warm. And you're looking towards the North Star. You're looking north at night. And you see all the stars up in the sky. Well, all the stars rotate. You can go back every night and watch this. They all rotate in a specific direction around the pole stars called Polaris. All right. Now, turn around and look south. And you'll see that there is another star. They call it the Southern Pole Star. And all the stars in the sky revolve around that at the southern pole. The only possible way that all those little twinkling white stars would be rotating, but at the very north and south poles it doesn't rotate, is if we are on a spinning ball. And that is a fact. There is no way you can get around it. It is an established fact. There is no other possibility but that we are on a spinning ball. Now I want to give another proof for the Earth being a spinning round globe. Real quickly. And this has been done by many people before Christ. People were doing this experiment. People have confirmed this experiment in different parts of the world with different backgrounds, different religious beliefs, in different countries. You can put a stick in the ground and it will cast a shadow. You can measure the shadow. You can go several hundred miles away and put another stick in the ground and measure the shadow of that stick, and you can prove with geometry that the Earth has a curvature.
One of the most common alleged proofs quoted for the spherical Earth theory is the Eratosthenes sticks and shadows experiment. Many people may remember NASA spokesman Carl Sagan presenting this experiment by using a map of Egypt with two obelisks attached and showing their resulting shadows. The story goes that around 250 BC, a Greek mathematician and philosopher named Eratosthenes noted that at noon, during the summer solstice in Siena, the sun cast no shadow and the rays could reach straight to the bottom of his well. Yet, meanwhile, in Alexandria, a vertically standing metal rod cast a significant shadow. Eratosthenes, Carl Sagan, and other globe proponents reasoned that this result is impossible on a flat Earth. To quote Carl Sagan, "If at a certain moment each stick casts no shadow at all, that is perfectly easy to understand, provided the Earth is flat. If the shadow at Siena is a certain length, and the shadow at Alexandria is the same length, that also makes sense on a flat Earth. But how could it be, Eratosthenes asked, that at the same instant there was no shadow at Siena and a very substantial shadow at Alexandria? The only answer, he claimed, was that the surface of the Earth is curved. After reaching this conclusion, Eratosthenes then famously factored the length of the two shadows with his assumed distance to the sun and recorded a measurement of the globe Earth's circumference close to what heliocentrist astronomers still use today. The fact of the matter is, however, that Eratosthenes, Sagan, and others are simply incorrect in their assumption that this would only be possible on a curved Earth. In reality, the exact same results occur on a flat Earth with a local sun. Eratosthenes' calculations were made assuming the sun to be millions of miles away so that its rays would fall perfectly parallel, even in points as divergent as Siena and Alexandria. Anyone familiar with the phenomenon known as crepuscular rays, however, knows full well that the sun's rays simply do not fall perfectly parallel, especially at such distant points, rendering the entire argument moot. Furthermore, using sextants and plane trigonometry by measuring the sun's angle at 2 points on Earth simultaneously and factoring their distance from each other, the Pythagorean theorem reveals that the sun is not millions of miles away, but instead less than a few thousand. High-altitude balloon footage has also filmed lighting hotspots on clouds, further proving the sun to be local and acting as a spotlight. Therefore, if globe believers wish to be honest, they must admit it is their faulty assumption that only a distant sun with parallel rays could produce such results, which has led to their faulty conclusion of a curved Earth. Because flat earthers have always maintained that the sun was local, and the very existence of crepuscular rays rendered the entire experiment invalid.
Now, I want to also just briefly hit on a few of these other misconceptions and lies that are being thrown around without any regard for their actually being true statements. People are just saying them, okay? For instance, we're going to cover a couple of them. One of them is everybody who believes in this flat earth keep throwing this thing around, and they've convinced everybody, nobody's even calling you on it. And I don't understand that, but you've mesmerized so many people by this. But you're always telling everybody, oh, well, water always finds level. Well, what about a level, Dave? That's why you have a little bubble and the water always finds its level. You can find out how your house foundation is level by using a level. Water always goes level. So if water always finds a level, then how is it that there is a curvature of the earth? Because the ocean would have to be going around and hugging the earth. Well, the answer to that is that the water does not find level. There's not some mysterious force in the universe that says water must find level. Why would water find level? Right? You put water water is fluid. This means it's pliable. It'll take on any form that you put pressure on it to form it in any form. Like, for instance, you can blow up a balloon with air. Does air always find round? No, only it's round. The air takes up an area that's round only because the rubber balloon is holding it in the space of that round area. So the air is pliable and it's following the form of the balloon. So you can fill the balloon up with water. Does it find level? No, it simply goes to the sides of the balloon and stops. So, there is a thing called gravity. Now, a lot of you will say, well, I don't believe in gravity. Well, I don't care what you believe.
But when you start asking, what it is, I don't know.
Apples fall to the ground. Call it whatever you want.
Есть. Сейчас. Зафиксируем, попробуем. Попробуем стабилизировать положение, чтобы не шаталось.
Water falls to the ground. Why? Some mysterious force. You can come up with any theory you want as to why it does that. Okay, but water and leaves and rocks and everything falls to the ground. Now, when it does that, which direction is the water going? Well, it's going not down. The earth is round. It's going towards the center of the earth. And that's a force that's applied equally around the globe on all sides. It holds everybody on the earth. People in China are held to the earth just like people in America on the other side of the world. And we're all being held on the outside, just like when the water is in space and it starts falling, equilibrium, and it forms a sphere. Right? It doesn't find level, it's a little sphere. I mean, the little raindrop's not a square or a little flat disc. It's a round sphere. That's just natural. Why? Because there are forces equally being applied to that drop of water on all sides. It's suspended in air, so it's equilibrium. And so there's this particular law that says that when you have mass, then lighter substances will be attracted to that mass. The greater the mass, the greater the gravity or the pull. Some people want to call that density. What that means is that there's a lot of atoms with a lot of electrons, jammed up in a smaller space, and that's causing more sort of magnetism because it's more mass, or it's a dense conglomeration of particles that are held together. They attract each other, and the heavier particles go to the center. Why? Because they have more electrons. So there's more mass. You can understand it, as I said, you can understand that as density, right? There's just more little electrons, and it's just heavier because there's more mass. And so the mass is in the center, and the lighter, the less dense, is at the top. So each of these elements are separated by how dense they are. And no matter where you are in the universe, the center, the core, is where the uranium, plutonium, the heaviest mass is. So when you dig down inside the earth, you find there are metals. But if you go up, you find there is clouds, and then you get up there's ozone and so air, and then fluid like water's on top of the earth, lakes and oceans, and then under that is dirt, and below that is metal and ore and iron in the core and stuff like this. So scientists know this. You wouldn't know it necessarily by looking at the earth. You wouldn't necessarily know about all these things called gold and uranium. And it takes thousands of years to go dig in the earth, and we dig up something, and they say, oh, we're going to call that copper, and oh, we're going to call that gold, no, we're going to call that iron. Okay, is it really iron? No, that's the name we gave it. But what we do know is that these things we call metals are hard. They have more mass, and they tend to be in the bottom. And the things that are lighter, and less mass, we've determined have less magnetism. Less charge, less electrons, and they seem to be less dense. You can put your hand through them. They're not solid. Okay, this makes sense to me. All right, so the Earth then is not an eternal plane or whatever, and then somehow or another water just finds level for eternity. Then if water was always going to find level, then this deep, huge ocean that's how many, meters down would not be only 24,000 miles. It would just keep squishing down flat, finding level to eternity. But no, it doesn't. We can find that we keep sailing, we come back around to the same place on the other side of the Earth, right back to the same place on the Earth. So, it doesn't go in an eternal plane. It would have to be an eternal plane if water found level, if that's just some mysterious force that water has to find level. Then the oceans couldn't be deep. They'd just be a flat little sort of plane of water that would go out as far as you could squish the water into a small plane. If there was some law that said, no, the water can only be squished down to a foot. It'll have to be at least a foot deep. Well, even then, the water would be spread out in a long, flat plane. We say, well, we ran out of water, so I guess at the end of that plane, you'd have to fall off the water edge. Right? What would be holding the water up? Well, there must be earth underneath of it. And you'd have to have an endless supply of this earth if it was an infinite plane. If it's not an infinite plane, it would just go out into a plane somewhere. Maybe Earth finds its level too, right? And it just keeps going, and we just keep walking on this Earth in one direction, and eventually we just go off somewhere that no one's ever heard of before. No one's ever sailed there. No one's ever flown there. And I know a lot of you say, oh yeah, people have never been allowed to get on an airplane and fly across the North Pole or South Pole. It's off limits, so therefore we don't know. Maybe it could go forever. But why is there cold there? There's no explanation for there being cold at the North and South Pole except for the fact that the Earth is a sphere, and the sun's light doesn't, because of refraction, doesn't strike the Earth at the poles straight on like it does at the equator, and therefore it's colder. Because of the angle of the light. I mean, we have all this figured out. But you flat earthers know so much better. You've got this all figured out. Well, it's just flat. That's the answer. Well, that doesn't explain anything. The globe explains everything. Even if you don't know that it does, it does. So, water doesn't find level. It simply conforms to whatever pressure is applied to it. And gravity is pushing on all sides of the earth, keeping the water on the earth. Okay, the round earth. Now, I see that we're, over an hour now, and so I'm going to bring this to a close. I've covered 3 of the main things that people keep repeating all the time. If the earth was round, an airplane on autopilot would fly off the earth. No, it has a way to keep the altitude and remain at that altitude. 2, water finds level. That's not true. That's not a mysterious force that is in the universe that causes all the water to find level. That's not true. The truth is that water is fluid. It's pliable. It will form into whatever shape, whatever pressure is being applied to it causes it to form into. And so gravity is causing the waters in the oceans to form a blanket around the round earth. Now, another one, real quickly, that I hear a lot of people saying is that if you were on a earth that was beating through the universe at thousands of miles an hour, how is it that the water didn't just fly off the earth? Well, the same reason why you could be in an airplane traveling 300 miles an hour and have a cup of tea. The same reason that you could be on a train at 70 miles an hour and drink a glass of water and sit in a chair and read a newspaper. Or in a car at 70 miles an hour drinking a cup of coffee, reading a newspaper. And you want to know something, guys? I think that 99% of the people in this world are so smart they know that that's not true. Who is it then that just keeps spouting all this crap, like coming on my channel saying, day. Well, most of them are paid to disrupt and to mislead, and it's being done by someone with an agenda.